Clear Sky Meditation and Study Center, just outside Cranbrook in British Columbia in Canada. And our community has been living and practicing together for over 20 years, learning, growing, and sometimes stumbling along the way, as all real communities do. We know the shadow very well. We've been in the trenches with each other for over 20 years, and it's still happening. The shadow is still lurking there, and we're happy to be more skilled at working with it these days than 10 years ago or even 5 years ago. So, this session, Group Guru Oracle, responding to our Scenes Collective Shadow. Thank you to Mariah. She has helped me present this, is an offering from that lived experience. So, we know that the spaces we care about, especially ones that are emergent and creative and values driven, like what some are calling the liminal web, can also carry uncertainty, can also carry tension, and shadow. And sometimes there are things that don't quite sit right, or questions that linger, or experiences that are hard to name. So we're here to share that with you. Hopefully, I know there's a great interest in setting up intentional communities, setting up spiritual communities. So if we can lessen the suffering or help you integrate just more lived experience into the liminal web, that's amazing. We'll be just so happy to do that. So you're invited to offer your questions, your discomforts, your curiosities, even the small, quiet niggles that are easy to dismiss, but often hold something important. So we'll be responding as a kind of living oracle. I really like that oracle, that term oracle, not as experts with fixed answers. We do not have fixed answers at all, but as practitioners, shaped by years of shared practice, shaped by years of relationship and guidance from our teacher, Catherine Pawassaret Sensei. So what you might receive may not be linear or definitive. We may ask you questions and we may offer reflections that don't fully agree with each other, paradoxes. And we may speak in stories or images or something sometimes a little unexpected. So you're welcome to take what resonates and leave the rest. Okay. And we gently encourage that any deeper processing or discussion of what arises happens outside the session so we can keep the space open and moving for everyone. So thank you for being here, for your courage, bringing what is real, and for helping tend the collective field with care. And so I'll hand it over to the field now and see what arises. And hello, Alex, who just came in. Yes, Alex, do you have a question? Or was that just a raised hand? Okay.
I wonder, Karen, would it be possible to just do a super quick, name who we are,
Yeah,
so
sure.
people know who's in the space? It might make it easier for people to
Yeah,
um,
yeah, you bet, Chris.
open
Would
up.
you like to start, Chris?
Please. I'd love for you to start,
Okay.
because you're our leader here. So I'll pass it
Okay,
back to you.
sure. So, my name is Karen. I am one of the co-founding members of Clear Sky. So I've been here from the very beginning when our teachers, Capellan Sensei, had the idea of buying land in North America way back in 2003. And so my role here is executive director, and I wear thousands and millions of different hats depending on what's needed in any moment. And I'm truly passionate about how to deepen intimacy, how to work through, how to deepen trust in community, and how to work with conflict as a result, and how to build the soil of confidence that that's needed to live in community, and to actually lean into each other. So it's been a very big passion of mine. So I'm going to throw the ball over to someone and somebody can catch it.
Okay, I caught it. Um, I am Erica. I came to Clear Sky for the first time in 2023 and moved here a year later. And I'm passionate about stabilizing contact with emptiness in this lifetime. An awakening in this lifetime. And feel that's what I'm doing with this community and supported to do that. And I met Karen online in 2022. She's a mindful money coach, so I worked with Karen first before I ever came to Clear Sky physically online and money coaching, and we've been that's part of the shadow work that we do here is related to the root chakra and money. And
So sorry, we're just checking. We're finding it hard to hear. The sound went funny. Is it just us, or is it the same for everybody? Sound okay. Something went wrong.
Fine.
It's fine. Maybe Erica just needs to speak up a little bit. I think.
yeah, sure, that's probably it. But I think I will give it to Christopher.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation to come today. So I have been a part of this Sangha for, it's 20 years this month. Earlier this month was the 20-year anniversary. And I don't live on site at the moment. And so I support virtually I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I am in awe of what these amazing human beings are doing on site in the living lab that is Clear Sky Center, and I'm here to support and perhaps offer a perspective that from the learning being out in the world, offsite. And I'm also a member of the Integral Conference of North America organizing committee. So I'm also here with that hat on, learning about what is happening in this community that we can use to inform the ICON conference that's happening in May. And I will pass to Duncan.
Chris, are we just introducing ourselves, or everybody on the call?
Everybody, yeah, you're just introducing yourself.
Yourself.
Duncan.
Just a quick so they know who you are, so
Yeah.
that they can open up and share.
Hi, yeah, my name is Duncan. Like Karen, I was a co-founding member and been here 20 years. And well, yes, shadow community is very humbling. And today I'm 55. It's my birthday today. So it's a double Saturn returns transitional time of life, which is also very confusing. It's me.
Sweet. Hi, I'm Dave. I first came to Clear Sky in 2014 on the 3-month program supporting the kitchen, big food background, and then went back out into the world and wasn't doing so great. So I came back for community and spiritual guidance and teaching. And because awakening seemed like a better thing to do with my time, my outward facing title is operations manager, but my inner title is if you eat it or if it turns on and off, then you talk to Dave about it. So I'm working with Karen on fund development systems and project managing a temple construction project that we're very excited about, and manage cars and buildings and things like that. And yeah, I'm a millennial, if it's not obvious, and enjoy particularly our diverse, probably 4 or 5 generations, 4 or 5 generations, depending on the week, on site, and that richness. So yeah, pass it on to Jeff.
Well, I've been here for 2 years, and just over 2 years, and I thought I was coming for a month or two, and then stayed a little longer. And community had always been an ideal, but I realized there's a lot of learning involved. You're bumping up against others. People are pointing out your patterns. So it's deep, it's rewarding, and it's also challenging. You can expect that. And I'm one of the Gen Xers here. I have a role in still establishing, like I help with the food forest and the farm and the kitchen, and kind of those are all connected in a way, the soils and the compost. So I like being out on the land, connecting that to the humans here. So can I throw it to whoever wants to receive it?
Back to Karen, I think.
Yeah, so I don't know if any of you have any questions for us to begin with. You're nodding your head, Mariah, so I'm going to hand it over for you to start.
Okay, I have like four main questions. I don't have to ask all of them. I'd love to hear the questions of other people in this session, but I'll just start with one that preoccupies me. Um, and I think it's in liminal spaces. I see, people who have certain approaches and insights to making sense of their realities that are not widely shared in the general population. And so there's an instinct to find the others, which is a natural, lovely thing to do, to get into spaces where new things are possible that require a certain level of capacity or certain shared vocabulary in some cases. And I wonder if a shadow in our scene is like this almost over curation, like this kind of hermeneutically sealing ourselves off from the rest of general society that does not share our reading and our sensibilities and our this and our that and our practices. And I struggle with like the question of balance around um, tending a space that where people have already arrived, but also needing to be secure enough and clear enough in one's approach to have a more permissive container that includes people who are not developmentally as secure or solid, perhaps. And maybe there's something wrong with even the way I'm conceiving of the question, of course. But I like, you know, I, I live in a community with a lot of different kinds of people that don't even know the liminal web exists or, have no idea about this kind of stuff. A few of them do, but most of them don't. And we've learned so much living in community. And then I see other people in this space wanting to build communities of people who are already in the door, so that which would make a completely different kind of community possible. But it feels almost there's like an exclusion aspect to that. So it's like exclusion in the name of furthering development seems like some kind of contradiction, or it's easy to justify exclusion um, to then further our own development. Then theoretically we are better able to go out into the world and help smooth things over and mediate between conflicting parties and whatnot. Um, so that's my thought dump, and I think you get the gist of the question. And I think it's actually really apt to ask the Clear Sky team this question because you all highly curate the people who come to your center. Like you can't just show up. You have to come to a program and then you come for a weekend and then you come for a week and then you come for 3 weeks and then you come for 3 months and then you turn into Jeff there who comes for a year and then 2 years, so on and so forth. And you have really good reasons for doing that. But we aren't, the scene has a lot more fluidity and complexity and isn't a dedicated retreat center and has opportunities to interface and connect with more people, perhaps in a less curated way. So to what degree is the curation instincts really valid and important and true? And in what ways might they carry unconscious exclusivity and actually enfeeble us because we're only dealing with people who are already like share our stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm going to hand this over to Duncan maybe because this is something that you have a lot of experience in curating people or having that stage development of having people belong to this community.
Yikes. Well, thank you. Throwing me the ball. Yeah, it's a great question, Mariah. Yeah, I think, it's a really interesting question. Like you say, at Clear Sky, for like someone coming on a 3-month program or 6-month program, definitely there's that curating. And we found that's really important because it's an intense program and we're meeting shadow and blind spots and it's important to get to know each other first and have a good fit for that. We found it really doesn't work the other way. So there's that side. But the exclusion, it's kind of interesting. For me, it's a bit of a view sometimes. I think what's the term I liked? It's a bit of a mouthful, but ontological humility. So I think really I think humility is a bit underrated. So I think if we've done a lot of work or we know a lot of meta, modern, and integral and so on, it can, I think a bit of a shadow side can be coming with a bit of arrogance, like I have the right view compared to other people, and that's exclusionary. So I think if we're in a field where we consider we're the ones with the right view, or the bigger view, or we're the awakened, educated ones, I think that's dropping that view is very important. We can learn. Well, it's an interesting balance. We can learn anything from anyone, and we have our own stuff. So it's important to have that humility. And if we've done a bunch of work and we're trying to curate a special space, we also have to honor that. So it's a bit of a juggle. I'll stop there and throw it out to the field. Did that help a little bit, Mariah?
Go ahead, second. Yeah, the first thing that came up as you were formulating that question, Mariah, was that for me, it's less about creating barriers to entry and a lot more about really helping newcomers understand who we are and what our values are. Kind of how if anyone's familiar with spiritual teachings or Buddhist teachings, a lot of them are described as the teachings are self-secret. So it's not so much that we're keeping things secret, but it's hard to know what it's like to live in community until you are. So the reason for that graduated process Mariah described is, that this is, yes, I want community and I want to do shadow work, but until someone's gone through that, it's hard to honestly say that someone wants to be involved in that process. So it's really about getting people to show up and assert that they want to be part of a community. We've definitely had a lot of experience, and I've gone through this process myself where I can show up in a new community and then kind of demand that the community do this, and this for me to make me feel welcome. When really, I'm also not showing up to participate and understand what's already there. So a lot of it is really having that, encouraging that individual self-sovereignty and strength to show up in the container, which can feel like exclusion until you start going through that process. But the result is that the people who are engaged they know what they're engaged in, and they're really choosing to be part of a community and to be forming it. Kind of like a bird joining a flock or something. You don't really come in and try and change the direction or change how things are going until you sort of make your way to a position where you can do that. If that analogy works at all.
Right. Thanks, Dave. I want to add to that. We have prayers that we do here every morning, and one sentence that I always sort of tend to grab onto is, all beings are invited to the banquet as guests. And so we do have a very welcoming, opening feel because it's included in a lot of our spiritual practices. And as we've been doing this now for 20 years, so everybody in the community are in different stages of development in community. But I can tell you this, though, because many of us are after we're higher stages of development, we've got skillful enough to be able to welcome in people and know where they are. So our skillful means have got a lot better and gets better every year, as we commit to the process of becoming a community member. It's a real thing, right? It's a real thing. It's really breaking away of living alone, breaking away of me and mine, breaking away of my view. I mean, really, the whole capitalistic society is teaching and training us that I know everything, right? I know. And so being in community you start to break through and actually lets others in, and let other things in and other views in. And so it's a wonderful process of dismantling. And so because a lot of us have been doing this for quite a long time, we're able to hold the person as they go through that process of disentangling the me and the mindness, and going from the me to the we, right? And of course, being involved, like Erica said it very beautifully at the beginning about she's here so that she can stabilize spaciousness for this lifetime. I mean, I think that's one thing, is that we are focused on awakening in this lifetime, and stabilizing spaciousness in our being makes it easier to navigate community, I think. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're
Yeah.
complete. Okay. Yeah, and I think to carry on with what's been said, like it takes a lot of time and relationship building to develop the trust that's necessary to do the kind of work we're doing. And at first it didn't make sense to me, like, oh, I want to live here forever. Why can I only sign like a contract for a year? But I think yeah, you don't know, what you're going to meet until you're meeting it. And it's really not easy. But you so it takes time to build the trust. And then with that is not giving up and choosing to be vulnerable and intimate with community, which I had no idea what that was. I had a partner, so I had like a kind of, and intimate friendships with people. I knew what it was like to have like kind of one-on-one. This is my person. They'll support me no matter what, and make me feel good. And it's different in community when you're married to a community. Like it's a different kind of thing than the nuclear model, which I'm pretty passionate about starting to talk about.
Can I jump in here? Is kind of
Yes, and I would also say not everyone has to answer every question. We can also
yeah.
you can give just like a half sentence, this is what the Oracle speaks, and then we move on to the next question too. It does, because I'm eager to hear other people's questions.
Okay. Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay. Morgan, can we move on to Morgan and then come back to you, Mariah? Okay. So Morgan.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see everybody. Honestly, not very grounded in the moment. I just want to own where I'm coming from. My heart is just beating really hard and I'm feeling it all through my solar plexus. So I think this is fear. I feel like what I want in spiritual community is accessibility and equity. And so when I came to the last Clear Sky presentation, and I understand that sometimes you all have people in the community who come with a lot of wealth, and then others who can't stay because of not being able to support themselves. That violates my ethics to make decisions on that basis about inclusion and exclusion. I have a mixed spiritual background between Quakerism, Buddhism, and Christianity. And in Christianity, of course, there's the quote about the eye of the needle and the camel and all of that. And I think I don't actually really understand the Buddhist perspective on poverty and our responsibility to alleviate the suffering of people. At the same time, I do understand that, there might be internal barriers in an individual to contributing to the community, to finding profitable work, and that at times that's based on maturity and development and preparation. But we just have such massive income inequality in the United States in particular. And I think, I've just experienced so much enlightenment in working closely with people who are low income and poor. So this for me feels like a real shadow of the work. I feel intrigued, for an example, with the idea of being able to learn more about my own shadow when it comes to money. But I don't know if I would pass muster with coming to clear sky with the resources that I have. And so when I heard at the last session that there's certain spiritual teachings I could only access if I come to clear sky, then I feel, from my perspective, that feels gatekeepy, and that I'm hearing all the other elements that you're bringing into the conversation that I think what you're doing with all of that. I don't debate that, but I just wondered if there's more that could be done or what has been done in terms of examining some of the dynamics that I'm raising.
That's a great question, Morgan. Opening it up to the field if anybody has.
I guess I can jump in, Karen, if I thought you might speak to it. But thanks, Morgan, first of all, for your bravery, bringing forward a difficult question. Just we really appreciate that. So, yeah, great job leaning into that. I would say, I mean, we struggle with this. I think we have a lot. Our thinking is very similar to a lot of things you said. So in Buddhism, dana's one of the first practices, which is generosity, and that idea is what Karen kind of said, the banquet, all are invited to the guests, that kind of sense of overflowing. And it's an important principle that everyone should be able to have access to teachings. And as you said, right, it's a very unequal world. And I mean, I love to hear Karen's thoughts because she does a lot of work with people around money, and that's both difficult. Some people have money and they didn't necessarily work for it. They've had the karma of having that money, and that's awkward. And then other people don't have the support structure, and yeah, it's really challenging. So we aspire that the teachings are accessible to everybody. So we have scholarship programs and different levels of engagement that way. At the same time, I think we found it's really important to try to help people to. A lot of spiritual people can be in kind of because money is not the biggest thing we care about, right? A lot of people can then be in not good financial situations. So part of what we've tried to unpack is really help people to develop livelihoods and income so that they have a foundation, because then it's, to be able to do long retreats or so on, we find that's just really important. So then it's a balance, so then I'm not sure what you heard the other night, but sometimes if someone's here, but we try to support them developing a career, and if they're in a sort of endemic situation of not having money, we might suggest that they leave. It's not like you can't leave because you don't have money, but it's like it's important to do some work now to establish a livelihood and base so you have a platform. So that's kind of the perspective we're coming at it from. So we're trying to figure out how do you navigate this complex world of money and inequalities and accessibility. And then we have a center to run that has, a lot of expenses. So you have to kind of juggle all of these factors. We thought at the beginning we'd love to just do everything by Dana. People just self-selected. And we sort of have a bit of a hybrid approach where we offer what we can by Dana, that people can give what they do, and other stuff we need to structure. Work in progress. I throw it back.
Okay.
I just wanted. Yeah, Jeff, please.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a complex one, and I remember 10 years ago, Capel, one of the founding teachers, said my work was to establish a career, be out in the world, make money. He said, go out and make money. And that I was too idealistic to live at a center. So I think we can be at different stages in life where that's part of our work. It's not separate from spirituality. It's gaining confidence, gaining skills. And I understand the dilemma. I understand the paradox, because I know some people think what we offer should be free, but staying here, I realized how much work and how much material resources go into supporting retreatants. It would be nice, like in Asia, they receive a lot of donations. Vipassana and those kind of practices are supported. I think in the West, we have to work within the system to a degree. So we want to make things as accessible as possible, but there's the limitations there. So we're struggling with that. It's a question we're always working with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just add a little story for you, Morgan. We had one of our members who's amazingly talented, great manager. You know, we all sort of, as spiritual explorers, we have certain mindset states around money. First of all, basically, deep down inside, many of us think that money is evil. So there's a tendency to push away the very funds that we need to bring in for our lives in order to carry on our vision and our mission. And a lot of spiritual explorers I have found over my years of working in this field have a tendency to put their needs um, behind their service, their life of service, right? It's a very common recurring pattern, right, of giving to others at the expense of their own needs, and it tends to be at the expense of their own financial needs, at the expense of their health. And so we had a wonderful example where one woman here was really, she was in a great position here, but her money situation was not good, right? But she was an amazing server of the center, and so for her health and well-being, you know, she decided that she would leave and develop a career outside of Clear Sky, to look at those gaps, to start looking at her money shadow and start building her own, getting into a financially healthy place. And now she's returned with a much more healthier relationship with money, because what happens and can happen is that people who are deeply involved in service for the world can end up looking to others to care for them financially, right? And so at Clear Sky, we're really, because Clear Sky is producing we call it bodhisattvas, are producing people who can be of service. We're not hiding away in this little center. You know, we've got people who are counselors, we've got people who are acupuncturists, we've got people in the business world. So this is a sort of a training center to bring that beautiful service out into the world. But we're very much into how can that carer um, um, how can that carer repair the relationship with money, sex, and power, right? So that they can be in the heart, and then they can be of great service out there. So um, we're about building the resilience, building the strength of the caretakers of the world, I would say. Okay. Before you go there, Dave, I'm wondering if we want to get to, because I'm looking at the time, would we Phil,
Well, I was just suggesting it would be lovely to hear from Chris, because I know he was trying to speak before, and he is someone off-site that struggles financially sometimes to come on-site. So it'd be great.
I think I'll make space for Phil. The thing that's still most present is as a response to Mariah's question. So if there's time at the end, great. Or if Phil raises something. Thanks, Duncan.
Just like what's coming up is like some comments or something. And I do have some questions. I think I want to share that it feels like a privilege and an honor to be able to, I guess, be able to interface with a community like in this way, right? And by that I mean like I can see multiple people in all their contexts. And I want to share something like I believe it's important that there's like some level of economic sustainability and also like protection of the culture or the thing that is beautiful within that community. And then I think I have a niggling like curiosity of like what is this for you guys then? uh, like maybe it's part of your economic sustainability model. Um, I just feel like a little saddened that I think ideally we want to be like funding the commons, but and then this is like a commons resource. But I don't know if the world knows how to do that just yet. So we need to figure out different ways to sustain ourselves. Um, but yeah, I think my main question, because I don't want to really pry into that too much, is around like long-term sustainability. Um, I th I think I am most interested in doing research into communities that survive over the long term. And so there's like an intergenerational side to that. And it's like, how do we actually pass on these knowledge? And because it's easy for like one leader to do it, but then after they kind of leave, then things usually deteriorate. And that's a failure mode that I see. And so I'm curious how this is being dealt with there, as well as like potential relationships to other communities but growing in that way. But I think I'll just leave it there.
Wow, thank you, Phil. That's a very beautiful question. And we're in the midst of that now. Who feels called to answer that? Dave? Mhm.
Thanks, Phil. Yes. Yeah, great question, or many questions in there. The one thing that comes off the bat that I'm always really, I guess, proud and really grateful for is that our dear teacher Capel, 20 years ago, when the community was purchasing Clear Sky, insisted that it wasn't his land, it wasn't his center, and so all of Clear Sky is owned by a nonprofit corporation, which means that saddened as we are that he's passed away recently, the community continues to hold the whole community in the center. And that's quite rare. I know a lot of communities where one person or two people are on the mortgage and it creates lots of tension there. So I think as a financial intergenerational transfer, then that adds a huge asset to us that I probably wouldn't have thought of that. So I'm really grateful it was set up that way. And that kind of in response to you and Morgan, what I've really found is that people who choose that this type of community and spiritual practice is what they want, the more I lean in, the more the community supports me to figure out how to make my life work. So I have, for example, my parents have tons of wealth, and personally right now, making ends meet can be a little tricky. But the more I choose to stay here and keep engaging, the more the community and the teachers and my Sangha support me to develop a career, and whatever that means. And then those skills get passed down. So now Erica and Jeff and the people coming are learning faster and faster how to get to a sustainable place. So that's how I see that passing down. And I hope we're at a place where people arriving within their second year are developing that sustainability. And that seems to be accelerating, which is really exciting.
Very quick sentence. Capel said the day I arrived at Clear Sky the first time in 2005, he said, you got to think 400 years. And I kind of blew my mind at the time. And he really, as Dave said, really spent a lot of time over the 20 years building for the transition and building capacity. So I was really impressed with his thoughtfulness around that. He often kind of interrupted things that would have been working well for him as it was, thinking of the future.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'll jump in. Yeah, beautiful question, and maybe very similar, but in a different way of describing it. When I first joined the Sangha, well, a couple of things come to mind. One is I got a lot out of the practices and so on, but I was a little bit the idea of lineage or this kind of it seemed a bit old-fashioned to me. And what I've come to understand is like just how powerful that is and drawing on that, the stability that lineage offers. And then at the same time, I arrived in the Sangha just a couple of years, I think, after our teacher's teacher passed away. He was kind of a giant in the North American Dharma, um, bringing those teachings to North America, and uh, and I lived near the main center, the Dharma Center of Canada, which I think is the oldest continuous Dharma center in North America. And I just saw how much they were struggling, even 3 years after um, his passing, to find that coherence. And so when over the last 2 decades, as I saw Capel, our late teacher, intentionally, you could see how he was intentionally building resilience and a shared vision um, as we went, so that that wouldn't happen to us. And now we're in the middle of seeing just um, how tremendous of a payback that is right now. Emotionally and personally, we're dealing with the loss of somebody who was such a central part of our lives. But as an organization, we haven't missed a beat. In fact, he set us up to kind of launch into the world even more fully. So that's the kind of thing that comes up for me. And I just want to tie this into what I was thinking about Mariah's question, which is it feels very much like there's um, there's a certain amount of, with that view in mind and that kind of intentionality about building sustainability. And I don't know if you know, but Clear Sky is based on a quadruple bottom line. And maybe somebody on the team might want to talk about that. But so with that kind of those structures and that kind of baked into the system, there's also a certain amount of maturity and just understanding ourselves. Like, it's taken us 20 years. To Karen's point, we're now out in the world and we're sharing. Well, this is a pretty good example of it. We're trying to share whatever wisdom we can offer from that experience. And we weren't always at that place. There was a time when we were more insular and we were more kind of, yeah, this is the way things are, and this is, basically this is how things have to be in order, right? And then as we started to understand ourselves better and feel more confident in where we were at, there was a natural dropping away of that and saying, oh yeah, we can actually reach out. And this is what I wanted to say about Mariah's is, like, we can have the view, we want everybody to find where they should be, and it doesn't have to be here, and it doesn't even have to be in this limicon meta-modern. Like, it can be something that isn't part of this, and it's going to serve us all. And that's a view that is not something you can just take right away. It has to be, for it to be, I think, for it to be genuine, it has to come from a place of really being able to feel comfortable in where individually or our community is at.
Thank you, Chris. Is there any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go back to Mariah's second question. Okay, Mariah, over to you.
All right, I'm gonna rope Danielle into asking this question with me. So wake up, Danielle. Basically, I feel like our scene is very self-conscious of the just general male dominance factor in terms of men being authors and men being thought leaders and men being conveners and men starting projects. And they're all very nice men and they're all relatively, egalitarian men who have a feminist consciousness, if you will, in terms of equality. But there's still a vast preponderance of men in this space in the philosophical intellectual circles. And Danielle and I went to a lovely metamodern spirituality lab retreat with Brendan and Layman, two fantastic men who were leading a retreat about contacting the metamodern goddess. And there was only a small number of women there. And we had some dialogues between, the masculine and feminine energy that were really intriguing and felt really rich. And it's just when you have 95% men doing the things, or even just 80% men. I don't know. I'm not getting too specific here. There's just this huge lopsidedness. And so it's always a side conversation. Like, do we need to have things be equal? Like, where are the women in this movement and why are we not more centered? Are we not centering ourselves? Are we, I'm busy raising an infant, for example. Um, so I don't really know how to put a point on that question, but that's the area of the topic area of the question. I'd love to hear if Danielle has a way to refine it or put a finer point on it. And so the question being like, not how does Clear Sky handle this internally, but what would Clear Sky's advice to the liminal web be? Since I know you guys do a lot of gender work. Okay, there you go. What do you think, Dan?
Um, I don't want to go off on a rant. I feel like I'm in a kind of feisty mood. And um, yeah, it is a dynamic that I feel like as I've been becoming more a part of this community that, um, yeah, that is there and present. And what I don't think it would bother me as much if I didn't think it's the problem with the systems that we're fighting against. And so, yeah, I don't even know what the question is, but it's just how, I guess my question that I struggle with is how do I interact with within a community where I at one place like feel like these are the people that I want to talk to, um, but nobody's listening.
Mhm. Yeah, thanks, Danielle. I can pop in. Um, it's been great for us to have female and male, well, leadership. And yeah, I see there's Morgan put in transphobia, inclusion with trans and non-binary people in the community. I just want to bring them into um, but certainly having a male and female leadership together, co-leading, like with Capel and Sensei, really um, helped us attract and create an environment that allowed males and females to show up. And actually, it was very interesting with our teachers because our male teacher was more feminine in his ways, and our female teacher was more masculine in her ways. So this was really great as well, having that mixture in our leaders. And we did a we were part of the research for ions, like a lot of meditation centers and spiritual centers, to see what the combination was. And for spiritual centers, most people are attracted, females are mostly in meditation centers. But Clear Sky was different in that we had 50-50, and that was very highly unusual. And they contacted us because of that. And so I'd love to hear what other people think in the room because I have found that particularly unique for this community. And I'm curious what other people in our community, what are the reasons behind that? Because I felt like I would say, as a female, I felt like I have, and now we have a female leader, and that's been very empowering for me. But I would say, we're getting better at supporting females in leadership as females because that's been an issue as well. Females not supporting females, right? And then males supporting female leadership as well. So that's a whole can of worms that we're working through at the moment. And Capel, one of our former teachers, he's dead now about a year and a half, right? And so we're really navigating and struggling. How do we work with a female teacher now? And recognizing that we have some shadow in there and speaking about that shadow. And yeah, it's murky ground. But I'm going to hand it over to the team because and I'd love if people would speak about the non-binary and the trans as well, and in our community, our hopes for that.
I'd love to jump in. Yeah, nodding vigorously. I'm just going to bring in my icon work here at being on the organizing committee for the integral. I know there's overlap in the communities and not exactly the same, integral and liminal, but I was looking after the newsletter about the conference and the announcement of like who the main speakers were, and I was just kind of floored at how I went to pick a sample, and I thought, oh my God, like how am I gonna make sure that it represents these different views? And so it included a dearth of female or women keynote speakers. Our teacher is one of them, so I was able to put her in there. Pe Non-white folks, um, definitely, and so pretty much that. Anyway, so it's very apparent that that's the case. So I'm gonna. I would say that our approach to putting it on the table, like our belief is that by making things conscious and constantly making things conscious, that's how true transformation occurs. And so it can be very unsatisfying at first because it's not a quick answer, and but really that's making this conscious, in the minds of everyone, keeping it on the radar. Um, I'm just all of a sudden very aware that I'm a white cis male. Um, but I'm just going to keep going. The four quadrants come to mind. As an educator, I was a school teacher for 25 years, and equity was a really big important thing for me. And so we would look at things like, well, maybe the girls need the basketball court in morning recess or every 2 days at recess, so that because creating those structures was necessary in order to keep the kind of boys dominating the space and the girls, um, you know, retreating the space. So I would just say, yeah, I mean, it's kind of basics, but that's what comes up for me too, is like, how do we use that lens and just ask the question, are there things happening? Um, what are we doing in each of those four quadrants? And again, to go back to our spiritual tradition, the upper left quadrant, the view and the shadow work is so essential. If we don't do that, misogyny is is such a part of unexplored or uninterrogated views in our world. It's just and that's something we've worked through a lot in the community. Men and women have all been looking at the internalized misogyny, and that's really messy. But if we're not having that on the table, then that's going to be constantly undermining our efforts, right? We could be doing all sorts of things, but if we're not actually, I mean, I almost want to say demanding that people are examining their own um, views on that front, then it's going to keep that threshold at whatever it is, 20%, to your point, Mariah. Some thoughts.
So thank you, Christopher. And I'm just looking at the time. It's 3 minutes to go. So Danielle, I'd like you to, is there anything else you'd like to say? Because it was great to hear that frustration and we get it. And is there something else you're looking for?
Um, I don't know. I don't think so. Not in 2 minutes, but um, yeah, tending to community is hard. And I think you just have to stay in the work and keep doing it and keep being better, like keep examining yourself every day and the mirrors all around you. So, um, yeah, thanks.
You. Before we meditate in the morning, we all get our pillows and we do our daily scream into our pillows just to get things out. There's little practices as a community just to keep things moving through, right? Keeping the blood clots, untangling the blood clots in the system, just simple little exercises like that, right? Okay, well, thank you very much, Eric and Mariah and Danielle and Morgan and Phil. Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. I mean, we could speak about this for a whole day. You know, there's great opportunities to delve into the shadow, but they really need a bit of time and a bit of facilitation. But if you do have any questions for any of us, I mean, you've met, I think you met 7 of us on last Wednesday, and now another 6 here. So, you know, please reach out if you have any individual questions. We're here. Um, we'd love to share all the hard work of creating Jew-like wisdom or creating works of art, people as works of art. You know, it takes a lot, and yeah, it's been absolutely wonderful to be here. So thank you for providing this, Danielle, as one of the co-founders. Deep appreciation for the spaces that you're creating, for the future of all beings on the planet. Yeah.
Eric turns his camera on. I want to know if Eric has something to say.
I just wanted to be have my presence be acknowledged. As far as to say, I just deep appreciation for this conversation and this space and the work that you Clear Sky folks are doing. It's magical, and also the interfacing with Icon is a longtime integral person. This is the first integral conference since 2013 that I'm not a part of. And part of it has been the ongoing conversations. You know, the last time when Tom had got the lineup started, and I was like, Tom, that's a lot of white people. It's like, well, why didn't you talk to me? And I was like, I'm right here. And so I just got to my limit of messaging that in that community. So I'm glad that to have you in there doing that work, because I think they do important work, and also, yeah, there's some things that need to be pointed out. So just thank you all. And it was brilliant to be here.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
You want to close?
Bye, everyone. Good to see you.
May it benefit all beings.
Benefit all beings.
Bye, friends.
Bye, Mariah. Bye, Chris. Thank you for coming.